Welcome to Roze Koze podcast. Every Wednesday, you will hear beautiful voices from Bella, artist and graphic designer, and Mia, video editor. Our mission is to spread our positive vibrations, and for this season, we prepared sexy ones.
Hi, sexy people. Last year, Bella and I did an episode on BDSM. But since personally we don't really have experience, or do we? Anyway, since we have just scratched the surface of the topic itself, we have decided to make 2 new episodes. In one, focus will be on sadomasochism, which by definition is the derivation of sexual gratification from the infliction of physical pain or humiliation, either on another person or on oneself. On the next episode, we will talk more about dominance and submission. I'd like to add that unlike last time, we won't be alone. Our guest is Hans. I don't want to do him injustice by butchering his introduction, so I will let him do it on his own. Enjoy!
For the start, I would like to, if you could introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, Hans West, I'm a kink-aware coach. I help people to basically integrate kink in their lives and to integrate kinks in their relationships. Kink in the relationship, kink in de relatie.nl, that's the Dutch site. kinkawarecoach.com is the English site. And I help people like giving it a good place. So people who are coming out of the closet, I help people to get out of the closet, basically. I help people to, a lot of people don't have real problems about their kink, but they do want their lives to be open and happy, and they don't want people to... I always say you don't need to talk about kink, but you don't need to be silent about kink. That's the basic thing.
Is that your day job?
My practice has basically two legs. There's one leg into kink awareness and helping people to live with kink and to have fun with kink and to know the techniques of kink. Because in our sexuality, we often don't talk about it, and then suddenly we have to know how to do it suddenly, even without getting decent information about it. So decent information about indecent things, and that's one leg of my practice. And the other leg of my practice, because I like taboos. A lot of people are having problems with addiction or having problems with keeping from drugs or keeping from alcohol. And most of the time people are really violently, then you should stop and then you should. And I don't think that's the way. I don't think it's the way to shame people into things. I think it's good to look what's underneath and have a look. Why do you do it? What did you learn from it? Where did it help you? And where can we do things in a different way so we don't have to continue using more drugs than your body wants or your relationships want or anything. So it's basically integrating kink on the one side and integrated addictive tendencies on the other side.
Having to study psychology, I assume that helped, right? The whole process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the psychology of things also helps to people to understand how can I integrate this. Often we fight within ourselves to things, and it's the road of integrating it. And what do I need to integrate this in my life works way better. Things are getting bigger and nastier when you fight them within yourself. And if you embrace them and try to say, well, that's something I'm too, and what can I do with it and how can I enjoy it? That's basically way more fun.
Yeah, the shame is here very important because not only yourself, the whole teachings and society puts a shame on that kind of practices.
Yeah.
So how early in your life were you introduced to any kind of kink?
I was introduced when basically I more or less introduced myself. I had a Barbie doll I played with when I was 9, and I did all kinds of terrible things with it, like
we all do.
Binding them up.
I don't know what you did.
Too?
I was
Yeah.
dressing mine. I don't know. I was dressing mine. I didn't even have a cat.
I did
woman.
fine as well. Not quite decent, but I did dress her up as well. And down. And so that's where it started. But then I got like being a feminist boy. At the time I really disliked my own basically maleness. At the time, the first feminist wave, it was more or less like even a quickie was rape, and I was thinking, what am I thinking? What am I fantasizing? And then when I was 19, 20 years old, I basically started a search for what is it, and what is BDSM, SM at the time. How can you think about it in a good way? And I met really great feminist women wanting to be degraded and making room for the degradation. I remember being 20, and I was in a room full of people. And I was basically thinking, what am I doing? I must be the only one having these thick, crazy thoughts. And she entered the room and she stood there on the podium in a short leather skirt. And she said, well, what I like is, and she started to name all the things I was like, whip, yeah, okay, butt sex, yeah, and it was such a relief to understand. If you do it to just anybody, you just make people unhappy. But if you try to find the right people, and you try to find the right people who enjoy your thing, that's like coming home. Yeah.
Oh, great. We all the time we heard phrases like BDSM, SM, DS. Can you explain these differences?
Yeah. Let's talk. It's B. The B is from bondage, so it's from tying somebody down, basically. Do you like somebody to tie down? Do you like to be tied down? Maybe you like to be tied down, so it's not your responsibility anymore. And the things that happened to me, terrible.
Give me all the pleasure.
Yeah.
I have nothing to do with it.
I'm a decent girl. I'm a decent boy. But under the B of bondage, there's also people walking around in bondage. Just you look at them, and there's rope all around them, and basically you could say, well, tight clothing could be a kind of bondage as well. And this girl or boy with a necklace with a large ring on it, you could just do like bondage. You could you have a hold on people. And this clothing, looking like you could be taken, is for me also under the B of bondage. So it's the fetish. I always place it under the B of bondage. Then there's discipline. The D is discipline. And discipline is basically about doing little tasks. That could be sexual tasks. That could be tasks in the home, in the house. That could be all kinds of tasks that you both like.
I like when men iron for me. That turns me on.
Yeah. And do the laundry.
No, ironing is okay.
Ironing is better, but it needs to be really sharp, right? The edges. That's a thing. If you're into the dynamic, and if you're like the discipline part, you have this image of how you like things to be, and you communicate that, and you also say to someone, "You did it right." That's different from the next one, where the D is from dominant, submissive. This is both. This is the power dynamic, where somebody you like to put somebody down and make submissive even lower than me. And even if you've done all the greatest ironing, you still find some crease that is wrong, and you did it wrong again, and you try to put somebody down. Or the other one
that already goes into sadism, like there you didn't iron this.
Close. We'll get to sadism later, but it is like shame, playing with shame also. But often people forget the other side is that people like to appease. I like to see you as my goddess, as my god, and so it's both things that can be. Some people like to be God and don't like to shame people. They just like to be big. Other people like to be small, or you like to see you grovel in dirt and abuse your body. And that's basically two things in DS, which is different from the discipline parts. If somebody does a great job ironing for you and he's ready, and he's not into DS, but he is into discipline, and you start, I still see a crease, he most likely thinks, really? I did a good job for you. I wanted to do this for you. Now you're... But in a DS relationship, it would be wonderful if you degrade him for making this one little mistake. So that's bondage, discipline, dominant, submission. The S is also for sex or not. For some people, for me, it's sexual. But for some people, it's just not sexual. It can also be spiritual. For some people, it's really a spiritual thing. When you slowly build up pain, or when you put somebody in an enclosed situation, that can really be like, spiritual experiences. And for some people, it's not sexual at all. I had one period of time. I can say every word in your podcast.
Yes, don't worry.
Okay. There was one. But just to be sure, I mean, we're living in a world that shames a lot.
Yeah.
There was once a girl. I basically tortured her cunt for almost 3/4 of an hour, and she was great with that. She was enthusiastic about that. And then because for me it was also a sexual thing, and I didn't ask, my mistake afterwards. Then I started to touch her, the same kind, sexual, and not hurting it, but like giving pleasure. And she was reacting like, "What are you doing?" She was really feeling, that I crossed borders because I made it sexual. And that's something to remind people that for some people it's sexual and for some people it's not. So there's no good or bad. That's just what it is for certain people. Then there's S&M, sadomasochism, from the sade sadists, like enjoying pain, and masoch, a writer who writes about being Venus in furs, like being humiliated and having pain. And this sadomasochism is where you like to inflict pain as a sadist and like to experience pain as a masochist. And that can be that you experience pain because it makes you hot and it is a good feeling to experience pain. People experiences are different for everybody, and for some people it's not so much the hotness, it's actually pain, and it's painful, but I want to show you how much I love you and I want to experience this pain for you. So for some people pain is that painful, and for other people it's just like plain old pain, but it's something, and then it goes more into the disciplinary realm. I want to give you your sadism. I want to go out on my body, and I can be strong. And that's often also the difference where people go into limp and quietness because they are enjoying it really much and they're giving themselves over to pain. And there are the other people who need to be bound because otherwise I would kick you, but I want to give you this. So they're more like a fight within themselves. Still all about sadomasochism, sadism, playing with pain, masochism, and enjoying the pain for spiritual psychological or bodily reasons.
I actually, on some podcasts that I listened to, I even heard that people use it to deal with trauma, like childhood trauma, that they use BDSM because they prefer it to like ordinary therapy, let's put it that way.
I like to think that you can help people with playing, with their trauma. Trauma, what is a trauma? A trauma is basically a context or a cue that is in the past, basically. And it's something that is like the past, and therefore I go into the past while I'm in the here and now. So I'm experiencing the war, the rape, the whatever in the past while I'm here because there's a situation that looks like that. With BDSM, you can create a role play, you can create a situation that more or less resembles what happens. But now you're in charge. And now you can say, orange, I got to stop for this for a moment. No, red, I want to have a cup of tea. So you're really in charge with the safe words. And you can start it whenever you want. Okay. Am I feeling ready? Yeah, okay, that was then, this is now, okay, green, let's go. That's a mindset that's quite different, where the same situation is still alike. And therefore, I kind of diffuse the situation from then and now. And I make the cues and the context like less laden, less, give them less charge in my life. Usually it would have been, oh, that's just like that. Oh, and it happens again. Oh, and you get charged and you get panicky, and now it's okay. That is like then, but it's also like the here and now. And now I do have the power, and I might even get off on it and make it hot, and therefore it feels good in my life. It's an extra in my life. It's maybe not quite what people find normal, whatever the fuck is normal, but it's
that's right.
We are not fond of that word here, really.
No, I like to shame normal. Normopathy. It's really sick to be that normal, that you're carrying your normalness as a burden. But the other thing is that I don't like to do these things as a therapy. I wouldn't come to me, I will hit you or I will rape you as a therapist. I will talk about your sex life. I will help you create safe situations where you do it, but I wouldn't do it myself, because what I always think is the moment anybody comes, so being a body, be anybody, also me, if I would come, that happens basically because you switch off your neocortex, because you switch off your thinking brain. I would not want to have a therapist that switches off his neocortex. So it's inherently impossible to be a therapist.
Way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm applauding the route to it, but it wouldn't be me doing those things. There are other BDSM therapists, and I find them often quite scary. That think, oh, no, let me help you, and you must have been traumatized, preferably by something that's really hot to me. Let's help you with that, and now pay me also. That's crazy.
It's an awesome way of earning money, though. Come on, you get pleasure and you get paid for it. I mean, it's smart. It's smart.
I would give the pleasure. I'm not against paying for pleasure. I'm not at all against paying for pleasure, but I'm against paying for therapy that isn't therapy.
Yeah.
So,
and if you enjoy and you go to a dominatrix and you get beaten like you were on school, and it gives you pleasure, and great, enjoy your life, do well. I applaud it, really. But if you say, yeah, let me help you with your traumas as a dominatrix or as a dom, and basically we're going to do more or less what's fun for me, I don't think that's...
No, I agree.
Decent. I'm a really decent kink-aware therapist. When I'm at work.
We are not here to talk about your free time, so relax.
Yeah.
We did already. We talked about my Barbie, which is basically still...
Yeah.
That was spare
That's
time,
how it all started.
No, but I do think it's good when we can talk about that. We have for people with addictions often. I'm often saying, well, maybe you don't quite understand, and I'm not going to fill in all the details, but I take care of myself and have a fun life without dope. It's not that you think, oh, now I got to quit dope, and now I got to really be a nice boy or girl all the time, and all these things that were really enjoyable at the time, I won't do them anymore. Be nice and dirty in your own time. And enjoy that, and dare to enjoy sexuality, and dare to be dirty, dare to be in your role and in your sexual power, which is often a bit dirty.
Yeah, very often. Some part of our brain just switches off, right? We really are able to push much further than even imagining, like when we are on our normal non-hot time.
But we can do that because of the relationship. Because not likely, but let's say I'm going to you to be beaten, and I trust you, and our relationship of trust makes it possible for me that I am beaten and that I embrace the situation. And we make oxytocin in our brains. We touch and we come closer, and I start to trust you more and more. And then I can maybe be beaten harder than I would have thought. Or I would submit to you and iron all your little thingies and feel great about that, because that is what I can give you as a sub, and it would feel good. It's our relationship that creates this. And people in sex are often thinking too much about the what's and not the why's, but the why is in the relationship. And it's like animals. I mean, if two lions meet, they could kill each other, but then they do this dance together, and oxytocin makes the fear a little less, but adrenaline makes it hot and makes it juicy, and my body gets ready to do things with you, and I want to submit to you, and I want to take over power, but I want to take over power in a way that doesn't kill you but makes you stronger. And then this relationship creates a lovely play between people, which couldn't have been possible if there was no relationship and I just wanted to beat you. Yeah. So bend over.
Yeah, I agree. And what are the most common sadistic practices people ask you about?
Well, I'm rather good at whipping people, so a lot of people like to know, how do you do that, Hans? And for instance, the mistake people often make is like they beat from the hand, like it's over there, and but if you put your body into it and you beat with your whole body, you get way more possibility to get the strikes where you like them, to make no marks where you don't want them.
Or like hit a kidney or something like that. You really need to know the human anatomy as well to be able to hit on the right place, like a sweet spot.
Yeah. Especially sweet spots. Some people think, didn't know that. Well, that would be way more fun if you knew them. Also about dominance, how to be dominant, basically. How to be a dominant ass without being an ass. That's often a thing to get your head around. A lot of dominant men don't like to doubt. They don't like to ask And I always say, learn to doubt dominantly. If I want to know how much pain I'm doing, but I can't ask you because I'm dominant and I should know, then I'm in the dark. If I'm dominant and I say, well, hey, I like to hurt you, but I don't like to maim you. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where are we? That could be said quite dominantly with the intention of pleasure behind it, but still being really dominant. And these are things like understanding what I often say about relational consent. We're in a relation, and if you think about that we're in a relation, then suddenly tomorrow creeps in, because I want to have a relationship with you tomorrow as well. If I'm just doing the male thing, like I want to influence you till you say yes, what I want, let's get you drunk till you say no anymore. Is that dominance, or is that basically assholeness?
Assholeness, definitely. Assholeness.
Yeah. And if you're a dominant, but you like to have, I like you to have fun, and I like you to get off on the things I'm finding hot, and I like to degrade you, but I like you that not so much today you want what I'm doing now, but tomorrow I want you to think, oh, I did that, and enjoying what you did yesterday. So I always say there's this triangle as a dominance. What does my crotch want to do now? What does my heart not to have done tomorrow? And what are my techniques? And within this triangle, you can expand them. I can give. I should talk about it, but I really like deep throating, and I know you don't. But if you do it for me, maybe you could, and it could. And how would you look at on it tomorrow? And then suddenly I can fuck your face in a way that wouldn't have been possible if I just started to. Because I've talked about it, because I want you to feel good about it, and what can I do to help you feel good about it tomorrow, then suddenly my hotness can be hotter, my room within my ethics can be bigger, and let's practice some techniques, please.
I already see the next conversation Bella is having with her husband.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, because my husband is more kinky than I am, and yeah. I just want to ask you, what would be the best way to go about it? You know, when you have one person more into kink and another not so much, what to do?
If you feel pressured by him, you're probably getting slower and slower. If you say, well, I don't know what I can give you, maybe you should find some things outside of our relationship, but I want to see how much I want to give you, and I do not want to be pressured by you, but I want to find out my own kinkiness, and I want to do things that tomorrow I will look back on, and then I don't want to have the idea, oh, it's just half what he wants. No, I want to say, that was great what I did yesterday. That was hot for me. And for you as well, I hope. But for me, it was okay. That is a way different dynamic than, oh, am I kinky enough for my kinky husband?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, since you're laughing, can you tell us some of the weirdest and funniest safe words you've heard or used?
Well, I used to. It's only lately that I understand how important green is. That often people don't use green. In the traffic light analogy, there is green, go. There is orange, I want to stop a little, but I want to continue later on. And red, I want to stop, quit, drink a cup of tea, and understand what the fuck just happened. That's the basic analogy. And at the time, I didn't understand how important green was. So what I often used was, because I thought that stoplight analogy was a bit simple at the time, It's getting sour as being orange and vinegar as red. Not really, yeah. Yeah, well, I want you to say, no, stop, please, without having to stop.
Vinegar.
Really unlikely that you're saying vinegar. Continue, please.
Must be fun to make salad in your house then.
Yeah.
Olive oil. Yeah, so that's what's. But green is really important, especially for starting people. This moment of saying, okay, I've prepared. I've had my head around it. Maybe I've put on nice clothing. Maybe we have the atmosphere. Maybe we've talked about whatever the fuck we're going to do and whatever the fuck we're not going to do. So I don't have to be afraid of what we're not going to do because we talked about that. And then green. Let's start. Green. Yeah, green, go. That mindset also helps to do what you want because you need a little bit of, lust, a little bit of energy to start things. I'm blocking on the words. Still having that. Okay, it's my fear, so I'm going to do it anyway.
Like anxious in a way.
Yeah, a bit of anxiousness belongs to going kinky. I mean, you're doing things that aren't normal, so people will judge you on it. So you need the power to start this and to being anxious, but I want to do it anyway.
If somebody asks you how can they feel more comfortable in their own bodies during SM play, for instance, what would you advise them?
Masturbate. Yeah. Learn to know your own body and think where your mind.
So simple.
It is actually, I read the same advice on the internet, but I just wanted to see what Hans would say about it. Yeah.
It's if you feel like, if you get to know your own body and maybe it's not quite as beautiful as you would like it to be, but it is what it fucking is. And I have a belly and I dislike that I have a belly, but I have it anyway because I like to eat nice and maybe drink, but much every now and then. And so I can say I can only have good sex when I have this wonderful body. When I have a 6-pack instead of a 1-pack, basically. Then
and you won't have much of sex in life.
Yeah, right. And now people say, well, Hans, how do you find people? And I say, well, I'm afraid to say, but they find me. Because I'm open and out with my kinkiness, people go to, hey, well, apparently he knows what he's doing. Let's try.
Yeah, that's hot. Knowledge is hot, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the hottest things there is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's why in America, it's dominants are often having a lot of courses, plaques on their wall. Where in Holland, often people say, no, I'm a dominant. I should know this already. So I can't learn it anymore. Strange, but I think knowledge is hot. Yeah.
Yeah, just because, of course, you're a coach. And on your workshop, trainings, lectures, however. So are you just watching or doing stuff? What your session looks like?
My workshops look like I'm always saying, it's really dry information. You can make it wet at home.
Even with needles and whips, you have to put.
Of course, you have to do things, but actually, needle play was the reason that I started to give workshops, because I got a workshop, and it was basically about, well, you can stick them about. Don't stick them in your eyelids, but on the rest, just stick them somewhere. It probably won't hurt. Guys, just try it with your own arm. Yeah, girls, I'm really good. We should start with breasts.
I'm not a, that's a hard limit for me, definitely. Any kind of knife play, needle play, no blood, no skin penetration of any kind.
Oh, I do penetrate, and I do penetrate skin, but I do penetrate. Sorry, that was an open goal.
Totally.
I do penetrate skin, and I learn people to do that in a good way, but that's techniques. That's what you can do on your arm or your own leg. I often have people trying on their own leg their first needle and their second on their own skin on their arm, but because then you need to do it with one hand. And if you know how to do that technique, you can apply it everywhere. And I will have PowerPoints showing you where and where not to use needle play. If that's your thing. If not your thing, don't. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. There are actually a lot of people, or a lot. There are several people who went to this workshop, not because they were really into BDSM, but because they were afraid of needles, and afterwards they weren't anymore.
Yeah, I still am, and I'm not going to do the workshop. I wouldn't be able to see. I've actually realized about myself that I'm an HSP, and ever since I found it out, some things like clicked into place. I can't even watch the shows that are with violence, and I had to stop so many shows, very good shows, just because I couldn't take it anymore. So I kind of learned what is for me and what's not.
And what's interesting, I would be interested in it. Has it devalued your sexuality, or has it increased your sexuality by being less violent?
For me,
yeah.
I don't think I even drew a parallel between sexuality and just me as being a more sensitive person. It was more on I guess like emotional and cognitive level. Then I didn't really apply it yet to sexual, I must admit.
Uh-huh. And now
something to think about.
Now that you do, first thoughts?
No, first thought is that it's actually good for me to know it because I know better myself, and I was always very open when it came to physical, so it's not really a problem for me. Knowing, and I was never in any kind of hard place or even had experience. Just read about it, and as I read about it, I was like, "This is not for me." You know, some things you just know, like you don't need to try to know. It's not.
And that's exactly where you can get your own guidance, and that's why masturbation is so good, as we were talking about earlier. You're more into listening to your own compass, basically. Mm-hmm. If you're in touch with your own feelings, you're more in touch with your own compass. And if you know what feels good for you, and if you know your body, and if you know, okay, I notice that I'm breathing in a way that is hot, great. I know just that I'm breathing in a way that is fearful. Do I want this or don't I want this? It's you got more knowledge if you know your body better. And you know better how to guide yourself through situations. So that's something I often tell people to basically help them with breathing techniques and with body awareness techniques in their play, during their play. Being silent for a moment and enjoying what you're doing, enjoying what you've created as a dominant, enjoying what happens to you when you're in the submissive role, and feel this is what I want. And if it's not what I want, I can communicate. I can say, Orange, let's go somewhere else. Or, okay, this one's for you. I don't think it's bad to give each other a bit of sexuality. That's not really your thing, but it's okay. It's not that bad for me, and you enjoy it very much. That's for me, enough for me. That can be a real good way of creating sparks in a relationship. But if it goes too far, you have to be able to say, nah, not anymore. This is it. And not wait till I shouldn't say no. No!
Yeah. Red! Pass red.
Yeah.
Passing out. That would be all for this Wednesday. Please share, like, leave a comment. Even if you didn't like the episode, feel free to leave the comment. We are totally into some constructive criticism. Bye!